Hello, my name's Paul Jenkins from ThePackHub, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Craig Sterling, who's co-founder and CEO of MarinaTex. How are you doing today, Craig?
I'm doing well. How are you, Paul?
I'm very good, thank you very much for a Friday. Looking forward to a really nice conversation. So for those who haven't had a chance to come across MarinaTex before, tell us a little about yourself and your history, and what's the story behind the company?
Sure. Well, my history, I actually started out in structural biology. So I originally wanted to be a marine biologist, but then I found out everyone in the world wanted to be a marine biologist. So I pivoted and went into structural biology, and I've had a successful career working with emerald biostructures originally, going through decode genetics, where we map the human genome based off of the homogeneous population of Iceland. And then eventually working in an automation side of the structural biology. Eventually, I took an exit and then kind of semi-retired for almost 10 years, exploring my artistic side, doing theater and music. So I did a lot of professional productions. And then when I was at Decode, my European business development representative who worked for me, Kate Murray, had started a new company in Scotland and reached out to me to see if I was interested in coming over here. So I accepted a position as CEO of a company extracting a biopolymer from shellfish waste. So going into marine biology, essentially, eventually. And as part of that, I met Lucy, who was the founder of MarinaTex. She had invented a film from various fish waste. And we had invented a film as well from shellfish waste. So different properties, different film, types, as you'd imagine. And then we started to try to work together. We applied for some grants, and then long story short, fast forward a couple of years, I ended up exiting my former company and then joined with Lucy because I really believe in this mission. And so we're bringing our films together, and we've now, as a company, what we're doing is we are focusing entirely on natural biopolymers, and we're employing those natural biopolymers to replace problematic single plastics, for instance, in packaging and in coatings and in agriculture. Because ironically, I did not know, and I don't think most people know, is that they coat seeds to protect them so they don't dry out sometimes, or whatever different reason they do until they get delivered to the field. But those are often plastic coatings. So they're actually introducing microplastics into the environment. Whereas we have a coating that we can apply to the seeds. We're now on our third field trials with that, with Dyson Farming, actually. And so those are our products.
Brilliant. So you've got both packaging and non-packaging applications. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So, natural biopolymers, we have very similar formulations, just very different applications. So, and what we found out is that we actually have a very good, very amenable formulation for seed coatings. And the agricultural side is something that's very interesting, especially as we look at food insecurity, they start looking at vertical farming. There's a lot of these things, right, that are happening. Water, changes in the environment, thanks to some of the global warming that's happening. So, we think this is an exciting area to be. We're both passionate, Lucy and I, about replacing plastics everywhere. So packaging is an obvious first for both of us being divers. I grew up in Southern California as a surfer. So, I used to see the pollution, as well. So it's something that's very near and dear to us.
Brilliant. Excellent. So talk to me a little bit more about the potential packaging applications. What kind of industries and sectors do you think it could be most applicable for?
Sure. Well, let's start out with a really easy example. So sandwich boxes, right? You go to Tesco or, at the train station, there's sandwich boxes are sold. About 1 million of those are consumed a day in the UK. All right.
Wow.
And what happens when they make those window boxes, what most people don't realize is that I would get a sandwich, I'd pull off the top. We all know the films pretty much aren't recycled anywhere. So we throw that in the trash. But then when you're done with the sandwich, you usually throw that bottom part into the paper recycling, trying to be, very conscientious of that. You don't realize that you could potentially be causing recycling batches to be discarded because that is not a recyclable product. Because what happens is when they make that, imagine they cut the window box ahead of time. So it's a flat piece of board that's cut with the window already cut and all the shape, it's ready to form. Then they laminate a piece of film, plastic film on top of that. They do that to protect the sandwich to protect the board from the sandwich. Think about a chicken and mayonnaise. That mayonnaise would definitely, oil and ease into the cardboard if you didn't have some protection. So it's not to protect the outside coming in. It's actually to protect the sandwich from, so that it's display still looks good and the sandwich stays fresh. Well, when you do that, you can't mechanically strip that anymore. So we have a film that we've developed that is biodegradable and all natural. And you can laminate onto that same thing, replacing the plastic. And if you throw the entire package now into the paper recycling, it is 100% recyclable and you can capture all of that pulp. So that's the first time that that's ever been able to be done. So that's probably our easiest first application, as you can see. Now, take that same sandwich box and flip it over. A lot of times that is also coated on the other side, right? For different reasons, to give it a gloss, maybe to protect it as well, depending on what the applications are. And it depends on the type of package, but we have developed a coating as well that can replace the coatings on the outside, so that it does not render that box unrecyclable as most coatings do. Same thing with the plastic. The coating can cause that packaging to no longer be recycled. So we have a completely recyclable product now that we can create. The coating, the film, working with converters and manufacturers of the actual packaging.
Excellent. And how far are you in the journey? I mean, have you got prototypes? Is it commercialized?
Right.
So where startups is an interesting funnel of activities. Where are you on that journey?
It is an interesting funnel of activity. We actually are pretty far along. So we believe our coatings are very rare, very near to market. So we believe the coatings have been validated. We've proven the recyclability, and we know that we can manufacture them. So we are near ready to come to market with those, hopefully in Q3 or Q4 of this year. The films, we've now validated that we can manufacture the films. And we're just trying to find the correct manufacturing partners. So that's a little bit longer term. I would say probably the same time, maybe next year, maybe earlier if we're lucky. And then the seed coatings are different because some of the formulations are in field right now and being validated. So those could be available commercially as soon as mid next year as well. So very soon for those products. Then we do have right now commercially available today a different version of our packaging that is a soluble version of our packaging. So think about if you go to Costa or Starbucks, all the sugar packets you see there, a lot of these now are these long skinny ones. They're like plastic, right? We can replace those with a completely soluble sugar sachet. So what you would do is you'd have your tea or your coffee and you would just simply drop it in and the entire package dissolves with it. So it is all natural, all goes with it, and it won't affect the flavor of the coffee, but it's a great product, no packaging left over whatsoever.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. So you kind of covered a bit of this earlier. There's loads of companies now with alternative to oil-based barriers, etc., making claims in the market. What makes MarinaTex different from those other alternatives? And you kind of covered a little bit of that already.
I think the biggest thing is barrier. A lot of those have really poor barrier, and it's really hard. Natural products are really hard. But the way we've created our product is we do what I've talked about throughout the career is biomimicry, right? So we're recreating, we look at how nature does it in the first place, how it creates that barrier, and what we've done is recreating it in the same way. So that's our advantage is barrier. I think we have an improved barrier over most of our competitors.
Brilliant. Okay, and when you're speaking to brands and/or consumers, what do you feel they're looking for most from sort of packaging today?
Well, from consumers, I'd say we really talk to the retailers, so we don't talk directly to consumer, right?
Okay,
But
sure.
I think the consumer would like to have, if I'm correct, I think all of us would like to see everything be plastic free if we had our choice. I don't think anyone really wants to see a bunch of plastic around, except for maybe those few that sell plastic. And that's a very small percentage of us. So I think the rest of us, would really prefer to have a package like I was describing earlier, where I thought that I was pulling off that top part and then throwing that in the trash, but actually I could just hold the entire thing into the paper recycling, right? And that would be amazing. Because I know I take it very seriously. I know most people do take, recycling seriously. So, and you can see it when you go down the streets, as everyone's got their bins out for pickup. So, yeah.
Absolutely. What about the biggest opportunities you see for a material, a solution like MarinaTex to provide within packaging? Where do you sort of see the future opportunities coming down the line?
Well, at first we would, we're obviously looking at tackling more higher end retail, and higher end packaging, so especially a lot of high end packaging has a lot of coatings. You can think about some really thick, good cardboard packaging, board materials and things, think about luxury goods that are packaged. Those are our first because they, first of all, want to have a sustainable brand. We can co-market. We are a very strong brand, that we're establishing globally. And that's one of the big things I think that's also important for our converting partners, because it's a partnership, right? And we put our trademark on every single one of those packages so they know indeed, yep, I can throw that in the paper recycling 100%. Don't have to worry about that, right? So I think that's one of our biggest opportunities is that, building upon our brand and the momentum that we've had with some of these luxury brands and companies that we've been discussing it with. Eventually, we'd like to get to scale. Sandwich boxes are probably not going to be right away because scale, but that's the goal. I'd like to eventually get to all of that.
Okay, each step as it comes, sort of thing. So
Each step as it comes. You got to get one step in front of the other. So, but the end goal, you have to have an end goal, otherwise you won't reach it.
Absolutely, and I love your ambition and enthusiasm and passion for what you're doing. So finally, you're exhibiting at the Startup Zone at London Packaging Week in September. I mean, you talk about some of the new potential solutions being available then. I mean, what can visitors expect to see from MarinaTex, and what conversations are you most excited to have?
Yeah, so we will have those new dissolvable sachets on the booth. We have those at MPAC as well, but they're, a little bit further along now. So we'll have some of those. We'll certainly have some of our window box materials. We have a soluble film. We'll certainly have our clear and transparent barrier films as well. And we expect to have some examples of packaging, so not just the film, but actually converted packaging. So we're right now in discussions with one of our converter partners who might actually participate on the booth in a way with us. Not really a full co-market, but they'll be producing the materials for us, and they're one of our converting partners, which is our customer. So, and then of course our beautiful faces, myself and Lucy and team.
Excellent. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to coming to visit your stand and meeting you in person and seeing what you've got on display. So, Craig, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed that conversation.
No, it's my pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Paul. You have a great weekend.
Thank you.